Hey Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for joining me on Indispensable Appraisers podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Okay.
So I start off with, what is the valuation industry winning at? I do that on purpose because I think in our industry it's easy to point to stuff that we need to work on. But starting with the wins, I think is more productive to say what are we doing because we're still doing it. You're in the industry, I'm in the industry. So I'm like, what is the valuation, the appraisal space? What are we winning at?
Well, I heard a keyword a few years back, and it was what is the highest and best use of you as the appraiser? And I personally, and maybe I'm being optimistic here, but I see more and more appraisers actually asking that question and kind of self-reflecting on that. And I see more and more appraisers in the profession seeking higher levels of education, and not necessarily because they have to, because it's a requirement. I mean, yes, every 2 years we have to recertify our complete continuing education. When you're at the higher levels, like an MAI designation, every 5 years you've got to take a certain amount of advanced classes. But I see more and more appraisers actually seeking those classes ahead of time, actually trying to advance the skill set, the tools in their toolbox to be able to provide, clients and users of our services more and more of skill set, I guess I should say. And it's encouraging. It's encouraging and it's inspiring. I see other people doing it, mentioning, "Hey, I just took this class on green focus lending, and here's what I got out of it. And here's a whole avenue of the industry that I can serve now because of that I never thought about." And it causes me to actually want to take that next step too. That's definitely a win. And part of that's us communicating too, when we do things like that are outside the normal day-to-day, norms.
Cool. And if- as far as an industry, what are our greatest challenges? What are we stumbling over?
Well, we kind of talked about this before we got started, but it's just promotion, marketing, informing the public and possible users of our service outside the norms of what we can do and what value is in what we do. I'm a commercial appraiser, so many of my reports are 100+ pages, and there's value. Let me rephrase that. There's certain users of a report that only turn to page 2, and then they've stuffed that in a file because that was a federal or state requirement of the process of, let's say, lending or something like that. But there's value in that 98 other pages remaining in that report. And I think we need to do a better job of informing, outside users of that value, of what we can do. You know, we kind of discussed a lot of the public seeks professional opinions from, let's say, a broker, but on value, on price trends and stuff like that. But through the process of completing an appraisal, I'm speaking to multiple brokers and I'm getting their opinions. I'm trying to confirm this sale or this rent, or hey, what's going on with TIs and rent abatements and stuff in this project and whatnot. So the wealth of knowledge that us appraisers go through on a day-to-day basis is immense. And I don't think we do a great job of actually informing the public that we have that skill set. A lot of the public just uses our appraisals from time to time just because they have to, because it's a box to check. It's a step in a process of something. And I think we need to do a better job of shedding the light on there's more of what we do or what we can do to help outside users than just that, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up marketing. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is appraiser's voice. I think it was always pretty quiet. We're introspective, usually type professionals, but I think after Dodd-Frank, when we separated that conversation with the lenders, if you did bank work, and we used to be on panels, you mentioned ULI or NAIOP, you would see an appraiser, it'd be a developer, banker, appraiser, and now you just don't see it anymore. So I can see some appraisers going, what do we need marketing? And by marketing, I don't mean we're selling a product, but to some extent, it's what you just said. We have a wealth of knowledge that we're selling, but we're not selling it just to like, oh, I'll do more appraisal work. has more to do with attracting the next generation of appraisers. It also is keeping the existing appraisers engaged and enjoying what they do. So I think marketing is, it's crushingly needed in our industry. That's not good English, apologize for that. But if you look at a good example, I don't know if you saw that billboard that in the Denver airport that basically was saying appraisers are biased.
Yeah.
It said, here's two families, two homes that appraise for different things. So here's another entity that's spending money on marketing to, to tarnish our reputation. And here we are not being quiet about, not speaking out about appraisal bias, not speaking about all the great stuff that we do, all the different types of work we can do. So I find that what you're saying about marketing is a great topic because it's a big bucket of not self-promotion, but it's a bucket of, hey, we're here, we're the smartest people in the room when it comes to commercial real estate. And I think the industry, and I mean that in the broad sense, I think they forgot. So for example, you mentioned you were doing a feasibility study recently, and what's some other kind of work that you do that's not super obvious for some people that don't know what we do?
Well, you hit that on the nail on the head, I guess, as the saying goes. I enjoy doing more stuff outside of the box, such as those feasibility studies, where let's say a property owner comes to us and says, "Hey, I want you to do a little heat test on, 5 or 6 different directions we could take this property. Let's see what it's going to cost and what kind of return on those costs we're going to get if we take this direction or that direction and so forth." And, at the end of the day, the individual components, that total value isn't necessarily the driver of my interest or the value I see in your report. It's how you got to that. It's the reason, the steps of reasonability of taking this certain direction or that certain direction may work better for me, even though that's not the quote unquote most financial feasibly option. So I love doing stuff like that, more of a thought process than just a total number. There's some reports that we'll kick out to where we just give a value range, but that's not even the real problem to solve in the appraisal. And some of these, appraisal works, we don't even complete a finished product. It's just a start of a conversation. Like, here's where we have like a rent study or a market trend study or something. And then, here's the data that we've generated. Here's the brokers that we've talked to. And, let's have a verbal conversation. It's a conversation starter or something like that. That's some outside the box stuff that we've done that I typically like to gravitate to and kind of enjoy more. Like I said, it's not just get past page 2 and then stuff in the file type of report.
And so what I hear you saying is being a professional, that you have something more to say, being a consultant, really.
Yeah. More consultant work, being part of the process, being part of the growth of, we are providing a service. Some of us, and me included, lose sight of we're providing a service. We're more of a hospitality use than we are just a I don't know, a statistician or an accountant or something like that, and sometimes with the in and out deadlines and bidding on jobs and stuff like that, we often lose sight and of that. I guess I don't know a better way to say it, but ultimately we're providing a service.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate that feedback. So where do we go from here? How do we fix some of the things that you mentioned?
The biggest thing is to get more involved, and get more involved on the local level and the national level. Many of us have opinions on what needs to be changed, but we get buried in our day-to-day. I bring up deadlines again. We all have looming deadlines constantly. That's part of this industry. And, I've been doing this 21 years and I've, probably failed at this more than most, but just keeping your head down. Every now and then you got to raise your head up. You got to hit pause on production, raise your hand and let your voice be heard, and not just complain about the problem, but think of a solution. and that can start at the local level, but really just getting involved and hearing the discussion, being part of the discussion, I guess, get involved with AI, get involved with outside groups outside of the appraisal industry, ULI, NAIOP, crew, see how we can actually work together more. That's, you mentioned earlier, that's a great promotion opportunity right there, for an individual appraiser, for a firm, and for the industry as a whole. Marketing doesn't have to be a billboard that kind of says, hey, we're here, this is what we do. Let's be one of those discussion experts in these conferences. Who better to ask than us? We're not on any of these panels anymore. It seems like we're not being involved with other real estate industry expert conversations, and it's hard. It's hard. I wrote down some notes on a suggestion to improve the industry about, I started 20 years ago, we were getting that conversation that, hey, this profession is aging out, right? It's full of graybeards that will be retiring soon. They still haven't retired because it's a great industry and you can kind of do it until you can't type anymore, which is great, which is an advantage. But we do need some new blood in the industry. We need some new ideas and some new energy. And yes, your obvious go-to would be, younger professionals just graduating college for that. But I would also venture to guess that there's a lot of new ideas and new energy out there from people that have been in the profession for 10 years. They just haven't raised their hand yet. And we need to get more involved. We need to get more and more people speaking up.
So do you think that's, that's the answer? We have something called a 1-3-1. So you have one problem, you come up with 3 solutions, and then you pick one.
I like that.
We call it a 1-3-1. So marketing is definitely probably one of those answers, which includes raising your hand. So why do you think we are where we're at? Like, why aren't we involved?
Number one, I think, and this is speaking in general, or in general, appraisers are more introverted as a whole, as a group. So we're more reluctant to speak up. We're more reluctant to raise our hand. We're more reluctant to jump in front of a crowd and give a talk. I get that. We picked appraising because it is a little bit more of the conservative, less risk adverse sector of the real estate as a whole. It's more of the safer bet. So you do tend to get more and more, I guess, not to repeat myself, conservative, introverted type personalities in this industry. But man, we got some great, exciting, intelligent, uber intelligent professionals in this industry that have great ideas and that have great ideas outside the box. But change and moving outside the box is scary and it's hard. We're all churning and burning, trying to get the work in and get the work out. But sometimes taking a step back to actually slow down, maybe change direction into a whole new realm, you end up finding it more financially feasible and more rewarding too. But it's hard. It's scary. I'm in that same boat. I don't know. It's you could probably speak to that better. It sounds like you're doing a lot of things outside the box, like this podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you for joining me because it is out of the box for you. Doing this, not that it's hard, but it's just not our normal thing. You mentioned uber intelligent professionals in our industry with great ideas. So you have great ideas. So I appreciate you coming on the pod today. You're taking your time, get this out publicly. It really is a start of a conversation, and I appreciate you taking your time today.
No, I appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Jeff.
you. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.